lake was calm that morning, until a scream shattered the quiet. A man wearing a dark suit very neatly splashed in the middle of the lake. His strong arms, once bragging symbols, now flailed helplessly. His dark skin glistened with sweat and fear as he gasped for air, drowning in the waves. Help! Somebody help me. Dozens of people stood on the shore, mothers clutching their children, fathers muttering excuses, teenagers raising their phones, recording, all eyes locked on the drowning man. But not a single foot moved toward the water. A woman in a red scarf cried out, "Somebody has to jump in." But her feet stayed planted. A man in denim shorts shook his head. "Not me, I'll drown too. Better wait for the firefighters." The crowd grumbled, mouths covered by hands, whispers, not action. Indifference hung in the air, heavier than the lake's ripples. And then, unnoticed at first, a boy appeared, barefoot, skeletal, ribs poking through his tattered shirt, his skin etched with small scars from battles. No child should have to fight. His name was David. He was 12 years old, and already weighed down by the trials of a world that didn't want him. David had existed for 4 months beneath the bridge by Lakeview Park, patching together meals, drinking from bottles thrown away on the sidewalk, sleeping on cold cement. He was the invisible boy, the boy who didn't belong anywhere. But David did at that instant, when the rest of them remained motionless. David moved. He dropped his bundle of trash cans. He shed his tattered shirt, went down to shorts, and inched toward the edge. A mustached man barked at him. "Hey kid, get away from there! You'll drown!" A woman hissed. "Where are this boy's parents? Who lets a child run wild?" But David didn't hear them. He thought only of his grandmother, the only soul who had ever loved him. Her voice echoed in his mind. God helps those who help. With one deep breath, David leapt. The water swallowed him. The chill bit at his bones. For a moment, he couldn't tell which was up, but he stretched his skinny arms to force himself forward, fighting the dark water. He surfaced, gasping, then kicked with all his might toward the drowning man. On shore, screams erupted. "Come back, boy! It is too perilous! Stop him, someone!" But no one stopped him, and no one went after him. Only David swam. Only David tried. His arms pushed through the water in frantic strokes. It wasn't swimming, not exactly. It was thrashing, gasping, fighting with every ounce of strength his small body had. The freezing lake tugged him downward, his seared chest, but still he pushed forward. With every lift of his head, he caught sight of the man going deeper into the water. The towering form once was now only a shadow being pulled down beneath the waves. David's spindly muscles screamed. His vision disappeared. "What if I can't do it?" he wondered. "What if we both drown?" And then he considered nights on the street, huddled in cardboard boxes, ignored by dozens who passed by. He considered the harshness of those who saw him, but pretended not to. This time, he would not be one of them. He dove down. The world was brown and silent. No sound except the hammering of his heart. His eyes ached, attempting to look in the darkness. Shapes stirred, only shadows. Then his hand brushed against something hard. An arm David closed up with all his might and pulled up. They broke the surface together. The man's head rolled backward, lips blue, eyes half closed. He was out, heavy as a rock. The boy panicked. He couldn't keep him like that. Both of them would go down. Then something was sparked at the corner of his mind. A television in a diner that he had once passed by, with lifeguards fetching swimmers. He remembered how they grabbed people, an arm under the chin, hauling them back. David slipped his arm beneath the man's jaw and kicked hard again and again. Each motion was agony, his lungs burning, his legs trembling. On the shore, panic shifted. People waded knee-deep shouting advice. "Pull him this way. Kick harder. You'll drown too, kid." Funny, David thought, as water choked him again. They all had advice now, But when it mattered, no one had moved. He swallowed water, coughed violently, but didn't let out. His grandmother's voice soothed him once again. You may have nothing in the world, David, but you have dignity. You have the strength to help. The suit hung like an anchor. The distance dragged like a mile. His arms shook. His body urged to give up, but he didn't. Finally, at last, hands came from the shallow water. Branches, belts, anything long enough to grab onto. Scores of arms reached out for him, and the drowning man, fingers locked around his shoulders, tugged, pulled, and then they were on land. Both of them lay there on the grass, gasping, shivering, alive. David was lying on his back, his chest heaving, water streaming from his mouth. The man lay next to him, still, until a nurse at the edge of the crowd pressed down hard on his chest. 1, 2, 3. Then the man coughed, spat water, and gagged for breath. The crowd erupted into cheers. He is alive! That boy saved him. But David didn't hear the cheering. He just stared at the man's face, praying he would open his eyes. And then he did, weakly. Slowly his gaze shifted to the boy. Their eyes met. One rich and powerful, one battle, hardened and hungry. The man's lips trembled. His voice cracked like broken glass. Was it? You? Did you save me? David, still chilled, could manage only a slight nod. The man's trembling hand reached for his bony arm. What is your name, son, David? The boy breathed. David, the man said, his black eyes brimming with tears. I will never remember this, never in my life. The paramedics carried him off. Sirens screamed. But before they carted him off, he glanced back at the kid. I'll return for you, David, I promise. That night David returned to his little nook beneath the bridge. Damp cardboard, a thin blanket riddled with holes, the roar of cars above his head. He hugged his knees to his chest, replaying the man's words over and over. I'll come back for you, would he? Adults always promised. Always, I'll bring food tomorrow. I'll come back next week. They never did. Why would this time be different? And yet, there was something in the eyes of the man that was not a lie. For years, David had not allowed himself to entertain even a stray hope. The next morning, when sunlight flooded through the park, David sat nibbling on a crust of old bread, and then he tensed. Footsteps from the hill road down to the bridge. A dark-clad man appeared. His face pale from the ordeal, but his pace steady, his eyes sharp. It was him, the man from the lake, Edward Mason. David leapt to his feet, unsure whether to run or stay. No adult had ever kept a promise to him before. Hi, David, Edward said gently, stopping a few yards away so as not to frighten him. Remember me? Yes, sir, David answered cautiously. You're Mr. Edward. Edward scanned around. He recognized the boy's whirled cardboard bed, shattered backpack, shattered water bottle. All the boy had in the world scattered under a concrete bridge. His heart tightened. Why would a boy with nothing give up everything to save him? May I sit here with you? Edward asked. David nodded slowly. The wealthy man stooped to the cold ground, dirtying his designer suit, without a moment's thought. They sat there in silence, the hum of traffic overhead. How old are you, David? 12, sir. How long have you been on the streets? David cast his eyes downward. 4 months. Edward's stomach twisted. 4 months, without anyone unseen. Do you have any family? My grandma? But she passed away. His voice shook. As quiet as the rustle of the river, Edward swallowed. He had started businesses, brokered deals for millions, ruled boardrooms, but nothing in his life had ever weighed on him as much as this boy's simple words. David, he said quietly, you saved me yesterday, and today I want to alter you. Come with me. Live in my house. You'll have food, clothes, school again, a life every child deserves. David's eyes widened in wonder. Live in your house. Yes, not out of charity, not out of pity, as family. The boy hesitated. He remembered the shelters that had thrown him out, the families that had taken him in but then discarded him. His voice was uncertain, trembling. People always send me away. They get tired of me. What if you do too? Edward looked straight into his eyes. Then hear this. I am not shipping you off. You'd be no trouble. You'd be my son. For the first time in years, David saw it. Earnest respect. No pity. No guilt. Just truth. He breathed deeply and exhaled gently. Okay. Edward smiled for the first time in years. Then let's head home. That evening, David walked into a house, the extent of which he never imagined. Chandeliers glowed. Marble floors glittered. The scent of food cooked wafted in the air. Mrs. Harris, the maid, looked at the boy in amazement. Edward explained everything to her, and when she understood, her face melted into a soft smile. She hugged David in an embrace he had not known since months. Welcome home, sweetheart. David showered until the water ran cold. Months of grime were rinsed away. He looked at himself in the mirror and barely knew himself. For the first time, he looked like what he actually was, a child. That night, he lay on a soft bed, staring up at the ceiling. He talked to himself, practically as if trying to convince himself, this is real, this is real. And David slept peacefully for the first time in months. Weeks on, all went well in a manner David had not known before. He woke up to warm food, fresh clothes, and textbooks instead of hunger pangs. Edward toiled in his office during the day, but always returned home in the evening. They ate as one family, laughed at nothingness, and even played computer games at times. For the first time, David belonged. But joy is not without opposition. Whispers began in the marketplace, in school, in the boardrooms, whispers that were honed, that grew uglier. He is a rich man. Why is he still living with a street kid? Don't it seem strange? A bachelor, no wife, no children. Now a child. The whispers were turned into gossip, and the gossip was spread like poison. Within weeks, Child Protective Services knocked on Edward's door, a clipboard. Wielding woman with a cold face walked in. She looked at David, then at Edward. We're here to make sure that everything is proper. After that, their home was a cage. Strangers arrived daily, taking notes, asking humiliating questions. David, has Edward ever touched you in ways that made you uncomfortable? Do you have a shared bed? Do he enter your room at night? David's face flamed with shame. Edward's fists were clenched in fury, but they clung. For to strike back would only make matters worse. The caseworkers scribbled furiously, translating love into suspicion, twisting safety into evidence. Edward seethed in silence. How was saving a boy's life to be translated into this? How could compassion be misconstrued as crime? David grew anxious, waking up at night from nightmares. There was one evening when tears rolled down his cheeks as he breathed. Edward, they're going to take me away, aren't they? Edward knelt, grasping the hands of his son firmly. No, David, you are mine now. Nobody is going to take you away from me. I swear it. But secretly, fear gnawed at him. He knew how the system worked. Suspicion alone could destroy families. Weeks went by under suspicion, until at last, Edward's lawyer returned with proof. The rumor had not been born out of concern. It had been born out of vengeance. A vengeful rival, Robert Allen, a man Edward had ruined in a business deal, had crafted it all. He had bribed people, twisted stories, spoken falsehoods into the right mouths. The lawyer placed a recording on the table. Edward listened, as Robert's voice spat venom. He ruined my company. Now I'll ruin him. Just make up something. He's a man with a boy in his house. People will believe anything. With this evidence, the truth shattered the lies. In court, the case collapsed. Supervision ended, and the poison of suspicion was finally purged. That night, in the quiet of their dining room, Edward pulled David close. We've always been a family, son. No lie can destroy what is true. And David, tears glistening on his dark cheeks, whispered the word he'd been too afraid to speak before. Dad. Edward's heart broke open. In that one word, everything was redeemed. The storm had passed. Their home was quiet for the first time in months. No strangers with pads and pencils. No cold eyes watching. No suspicion hanging over them. Just father and son, finally able to breathe again, throughout the following weeks. David's smile returned. No longer was it the closed, hesitant smile of a street orphan panhandling for scraps. It was now the broad, joyful smile of a boy who at last felt safe. He excelled at school. Teachers were amazed by the lightning speed of his mind and his kind heart. He made friends, real friends, who no longer called him the boy from under the bridge, but David, the boy who never hesitated to help others, the boy who laughed again. Edward did not falter. A swimming instructor was employed, and soon David swam calmly instead of in flight. In the evenings, they developed routines, homework at dinner, movie nights on Friday, afternoons in the garden on Saturday. The mansion, once empty and cold, rang with laughter. For Edward, it was even deeper. For years, he had measured life according to contracts, profits, and empty victories. Now, every evening, he measured it in terms of something different, the joy of coming home to a boy who called him Dad. But scars don't heal overnight. There were still nights when David awoke, trembling with nightmares. Nightmares of being abandoned. Nightmares of being returned to the street. Every time, Edward was there, sitting next to him, talking softly. "I am here, son. You are safe. No one will take you from me." Slowly, the nightmares went away. In their place came dreams of swimming pools, classrooms, birthdays, and a future. That evening, when the sun had set golden over the garden, David gazed at Edward. His voice was tiny but unshakable. "Do you think I'll ever be normal?" Edward went down on one knee, his black hands on the boy's shoulders. "David, you are not normal. You are special. You saved my life when no one else would even attempt it. You gave me a purpose to keep living, and we'll make something more than normal. Together, we'll make a family." David's eyes filled with tears. He hugged his father tightly, face buried in him. "I love you, Dad." Edward's throat choked, his own tears streaming profusely. "I love you too, son, more than anything." And with the darkness, the mansion emitted not riches nor chandeliers, but something else: love, trust, and the unbreakable bond between a man who'd almost died and the boy who'd saved him. Two lives for one act of courage, for sometimes even the smallest leap can change everything.